Captain Valketh pressed her clawed hands against the smooth console of her battlecruiser's command deck. The Vraxian Empire's newest warship, the Stellar Vengeance, hummed with power beneath her feet. Her compound eyes studied the holographic display showing 3 potential destinations for repairs. 2 massive Vraxian shipyards glowed bright blue on the map, their facilities capable of repairing any ship in the Imperial fleet. The third option pulsed weakly in yellow, a tiny human-operated repair station orbiting a distant planet, Dal. "Course for Kepler 442b, she commanded, her voice cutting through the bridge's ambient noise. The bridge fell silent. 7 pairs of alien eyes turned toward their captain, antennae twitching with confusion. First Officer Quindar, his scarred face showing years of battle experience, stepped forward. "Captain, I must protest. The Thrank shipyard at Vega 7 is only 2 days away. They have the best engineers in the sector, and our repair could be completed within hours." Valketh's mandibles clicked, a sign of impatience among her species. "The hegemony yards at Centauri Prime are even closer, my lady," added Navigation Officer Velka. "Their quantum repair systems could restore our damaged hull in minutes." The captain turned slowly, her iridescent exoskeleton catching the bridge's pale lighting. "I said Kepler 442b. "But, Captain," Quindar gestured at the tactical display, "that primitive station has no quantum regenerators, no matter reconstructors, no adaptive armor plating systems. The humans barely understand basic fusion technology. Why would we—" "Because," Valketh interrupted. "Last month, the Altarian flagship Pride of Zephyr suffered critical engine failure near that same station. Their core was minutes from breaching. The Altarians' own engineers couldn't save them. The crew listened intently. The Altarians were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology, rivaling even the Vraxians. The humans repaired it using scrap metal and spare parts," Valketh continued. "In 3 hours they had the Pride of Zephyr running better than new. Admiral Zarthon himself told me the human mechanic fixed a problem that had plagued their engines for months. Tactical." Officer Hicksvan tapped his console. "Captain, we've sustained significant damage to our secondary hull. The saboteurs' plasma bombs left holes throughout sections 7 through 14. Our primary power coupling is unstable. Surely the hegemony's automated repair drones would follow standard protocols," Valketh finished. "They would replace damaged sections with identical components. The humans? They improve upon the original design." She moved to the main viewport, watching stars streak past as they jumped to hyperspace. "I've seen their work, officers. They don't just repair, they enhance, they don't follow blueprints, they rewrite them." Several light years away, Chief Engineer Lee floated in zero gravity near the repair station's main window, a magnetic cup, of coffee secured to her tool belt. The station, Echo 4, wasn't much to look at, cobbled together from decommissioned cargo ships and mining equipment, but it was home, and more importantly, it was functional. "Lee, you need to see this," called Technician Min from the sensor array. She pushed off the wall, gliding through the station's central corridor. Her magnetic boots clicked against the deck plating as artificial gravity kicked in. "What have we got?" Min's eyes were wide as he stared at his monitors. "Vraxian battlecruiser coming in hot. It's huge. The computer says it's a Devastator-class ship." Station Controller Park hurried over, nearly spilling his instant noodles. "Are you serious? One of their main battle fleet ships?" "Bigger than 2 of our old destroyers put together," Min confirmed. Lee laughed, a sound that echoed off the metal walls. "Well, that's new. Kim, prep the heavy-duty mag clamps. Han, get the power cells charged to maximum. We're about to meet some real aliens." The station's communication system crackled to life. "This is Repair Station Echo 4. We weren't expecting a ship of your size." The response came in perfect, standard galactic, though with a distinctly Vraxian accent. "Emergency repairs required. Your bay can accommodate us." Park looked at Lee, who studied their largest repair bay on the schematic display. "It'll be tight, but we can do it." She leaned into the microphone. "Welcome to Echo 4. Transmitting. Docking procedures now." The next hour was a masterpiece of precision flying. The massive Vraxian ship, blackened by battle damage, maneuvered through the station's docking arms. Sparks flew as adjustable clamps stretched to their maximum extension. The entire station groaned under the additional mass. Engineer Kim watched. From the dock, her breath fogging in the suddenly thin atmosphere as the massive ship blocked most of their view of space. "It's like a floating city. A floating city that's been through a war," observed Technician Cho, pointing at the visible damage along the hull. The airlock cycled, and Captain Valketh emerged. She had to duck significantly to fit through the human-sized doorway, her imposing form filling the narrow corridor. Behind her came a small entourage of Vraxian officers, their movements graceful despite the station's unfamiliar gravity. Station. Controller Park stepped forward, trying not to crane his neck too obviously to meet the captain's compound eyes. "Welcome aboard Echo 4. I'm Park, the station controller." Valketh's antennae twitched as she studied the human facilities around her. The walls were patched with different materials, cables ran exposed along the ceiling, and the air recycling system hummed loudly. Compared to the sleek, seamless corridors of her battlecruiser, the human station looked cobbled together. "Your facilities are adequate," she said carefully. Chief Engineer Lee emerged from behind a maintenance panel, her hands covered in lubricant and her hair tied back with what looked like spare wire. "Adequate gets the job done, Captain. Mind if I ask what happened to your ship?" "Sabotage," Valketh replied curtly. "During a diplomatic mission to the neutral zone," Lee nodded, already unfastening her tablet computer. "Kim, run a full external diagnostic. Min, prep the heavy maintenance bots. Han, get the portable fusion generator online." "Ma'am," Kim saluted awkwardly, clearly trying to figure out the proper protocol for addressing an alien war captain through their human supervisor. Valketh watched the human crew spring into action. Their movements weren't as coordinated as her own crew's, but there was an energy to their work that intrigued her. They seemed excited by the challenge. "Your people move with purpose," she observed. Lee grinned, revealing slightly crooked teeth. "We don't get many Devastator-class ships. This is the biggest repair job we've attempted since, well, ever." The massive warship settled into the bay with a final mechanical groan. Warning lights flashed as the station's systems adjusted to the additional load. Through the transparency of the docking bay, stars wheeled slowly as the combined mass affected the station's rotation. Chief Engineer Lee clapped her hands together, the sound echoing off the bay walls. "All right, people, we've got ourselves a Vraxian battlecruiser to fix. Let's show them what human ingenuity can do." Across the bay, Captain Valketh's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps coming here wasn't such an unusual choice after all. Engineer Kim squeezed through the narrow maintenance tunnel, her headlamp cutting through the darkness. The Vraxian ship's interior was built for insectoid creatures, so humans had to crawl through spaces designed for beings that could compress their bodies significantly. Behind her, Technician Han dragged a portable scanner and toolkit through the cramped space. "This is weird," Kim muttered, studying her diagnostic readings. The scanner beeped irregularly, its screen flickering with strange patterns. "These burn. Patterns. They don't look right." She pressed her face closer to a damaged circuit board, running her fingers along scorch marks. The metal felt different under her fingertips, rougher than it should be from weapon damage. "What do you think?" Han asked, squeezing up beside her in the tunnel. Kim pulled out a magnifying glass, an old-fashioned tool that most technicians in the galaxy would laugh at. But Chief Engineer Lee always insisted on having basic tools alongside advanced equipment. "Look at these edges. See how the damage spreads? This isn't from plasma weapons or ion cannons." She pointed to tiny holes in the circuit boards, barely visible to the naked eye. Someone placed microcharges inside the ship. They would have needed access to sensitive areas, knowledge of the ship's layout, and time to plant them perfectly. Han whistled low. "Sabotage? Definitely." Kim took photos with her tablet, comparing the damage patterns to a database of known weapons signatures. None matched. Meanwhile, in the main engineering bay, Captain Valketh watched the human repair crew with growing fascination. Her own engineers stood nearby, compound eyes reflecting confusion as they observed the humans' methods. Where Vraxian technicians would use molecular scanners to identify damaged systems and simply replace entire modules, the humans were taking everything apart piece by piece. They tested individual components, traced wire pathways by hand, and they even listened to the sounds different systems made. Technician Min lay on his back beneath a power coupling, arms and legs sticking out at odd angles as he worked. "This coupling's been modified," he called out. "Someone changed the resonance frequency." Chief Engineer Lee knelt beside him, holding a flashlight. "Modified how?" "They installed a secondary coil that would create harmonic interference after about 50 hours of operation. It would slowly degrade the power output until the system failed catastrophically." Across the room, Vraxian engineer Zektar's antennae twitched in disbelief. 50 hours? That means the sabotage was planned well before our mission began. Lee nodded grimly. "This wasn't some opportunistic attack. Someone on your crew, or someone with access to your ship, wanted you to fail at a specific time." "Station." Controller Park entered the bay, tablet in hand. "Captain Valketh, our analysis suggests your ship was attacked by someone with intimate knowledge of Vraxian technology." Valketh's compound eyes fixed on him. "How did you determine this so quickly? Our own security team spent days investigating and found nothing conclusive." Kim emerged from a maintenance hatch, her jumpsuit streaked with grease and coolant. She wiped her hands on a rag, leaving smears of alien lubricants. "Simple observation," she said with a slight smile. "Your people expected battle damage, so they ran combat diagnostics. We looked at what was actually broken." She gestured to a holographic display showing the ship's systems. "Your diagnostic systems were checking for hull breaches, weapon impacts, and power system failures from external attacks. But whoever did this was smarter than that." Technician Cho approached with a small device in his hands. "Captain, we found this in your secondary power relay." He held up what looked like a tiny metal spider, no bigger than a fingernail. Vraxian officers gathered around, studying the device. First Officer Quindar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "That's a hegemony spy bot," he hissed. "But how? We were inspected before leaving home port." Engineer Kim took the device, examining it with a portable analyzer. "It's not just a spy bot. Look at these micro-tools built into the legs. This little guy was programmed to make specific modifications to your systems, then hide until the effects manifested." She connected the device to her scanner, running a trace on its programming. "Interesting. The code signature matches 3 similar attempts on other ships in the past 6 months. Captain Valketh stepped closer. "Other ships?" 2 Cerulean destroyers and an Aquarian civilian transport. Station Controller Park confirmed, checking. His database. All experienced mysterious system failures that looked like random malfunctions. All were later found to have been sabotaged by similar devices. Lee frowned, studying the patterns. "Someone's testing these spybots, improving them with each deployment. Your ship wasn't the target. It was the test run." The Vraxian captain's exoskeleton seemed to darken with anger. "Testing for what?" "For something bigger," Kim said quietly. "These devices are getting smarter, more sophisticated. Whoever's making them is preparing for a major operation." Han crawled out from beneath, a control panel holding a bundle of wires. "I found 17 more microcharges throughout the ship. They're all connected to a central timer that would have triggered them simultaneously." "When?" Valketh demanded. "In about 36 hours, Han replied, "right when you would have been at the peace summit with the hegemony counselors." The implications hit everyone at once. The explosion would have looked like a Vraxian ship attacking a diplomatic meeting, potentially starting a war between 2 major galactic powers. Engineer Min wiped sweat from his forehead. "This is way beyond simple sabotage. This is a false flag operation." Valley's antennae twitched as she processed this information. Around her, the human repair crew continued working, but now with a different energy. They weren't just fixing mechanical problems anymore. They were uncovering a conspiracy. "Your methods intrigue me," she admitted to Kim. "Vraxian protocols would have missed this entirely. We would have replaced the damaged sections and moved on." Kim smiled, her face smudged with various alien fluids. "That's the difference between us and the automated systems. We don't just look at what's broken, we ask why it's broken." Technician So emerged from a computer terminal, looking excited. "I've cracked the spy bot's communication logs. It was transmitting data to coordinates." In the outer rim, someone's been watching your every move for months. Captain Valketh stared at the small device in Kim's hands. Such a tiny thing, yet it had nearly caused an interstellar war. Her compound eyes turned to study the humans working throughout her ship. They crawled through spaces her own crew couldn't access, noticed details her advanced scanners missed, and asked questions her people never thought to ask. Perhaps there was more to these primitive beings than the galaxy realized. Chief Engineer Lee called out from across the bay. "Kim, we're going to need your eyes on the navigation system. I think these spy bots have been mapping the ship's defensive capabilities." As Kim headed off, her diagnostic scanner still beeping erratically in her hand, Captain Valketh made a decision. Whatever happened next, she wanted these humans involved. Their unique perspective had already saved her ship and possibly prevented a war. For the first time in cycles, she felt something resembling curiosity about these strange, primitive beings, who saw things that advancement had made her own people blind to. Programmer. So cracked his knuckles as he settled into his makeshift workstation. The Vraxian ship's computer core towered above him, a crystalline structure that pulsed with alien data patterns. His fingers flew across 3 different keyboards, human, Vraxian, and a universal interface he'd built himself from scrap parts. "This is beautiful," he whispered, watching code cascade down his screens. Terrible but beautiful. The virus wasn't like anything in the galactic databases. It slithered through the ship's systems like a living thing, constantly rewriting itself. Every time SO tried to trace its path, it adapted, creating new pathways through the ship's network. "It's learning faster than I can track it," he reported to Chief Engineer Lee, who was watching over his shoulder. "Look at this," he highlighted. A section of code that was morphing in real time. The virus had detected his intrusion attempts and was building defenses, creating digital dead ends and false signatures to confuse trackers. "Standard purge protocols won't work," So explained. "This thing learns too fast. It's almost like it's alive." Around them, the Vraxian technical team observed with growing alarm. Sub-Commander Hextar, their chief network security officer, studied the readings with obvious distress. "In 47 years of service, I have never encountered malware this sophisticated," Hextar admitted. "Our best cyber warfare programs cannot match this." Mechanic O looked up from where she was calibrating a sensor array. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" she suggested, wiping hydraulic fluid from her hands. Everyone turned to look at her. She was known for unconventional solutions, but this seemed different. "What if we don't fight it?" she continued. "What if we make it think it's succeeding while we build our own counter-virus?" The suggestion hung in the air like a dangerous chemical. Sub-Commander Hextar's compound eyes widened in horror. "You propose to deliberately leave active malware in our systems?" The Vraxian's antennae trembled with indignation. "That violates every security protocol ever established." Kim laughed, a sound that echoed strangely in the alien technology bay. "Trust us," she grinned, already gathering spare components from around the room. "Sometimes the best way forward is sideways." She began assembling something that looked like a cross between a diagnostic tool and a child's toy, combining human circuit boards with Vraxian quantum processors and some unidentifiable components that might have come from a dozen different species. "You can't be serious," protested Navigation Officer Velka. "The risk is worth it," interrupted Captain Valketh, entering the room. She had been observing the humans work for hours, and something about their approach fascinated her. "Continue." So, pulled up a virtual workspace, creating what looked like a digital sandbox. "Here's the plan. We create a fake system, a perfect copy of your ship's critical networks, but isolated." His fingers danced across interfaces as he spoke. "We let the virus think it's successfully infiltrating your real systems, while we study exactly how it works." Engineer Min joined the group carrying a device that hummed with contained energy. "I've built a quantum isolation chamber. We can run the simulation at accelerated time rates." "While the virus thinks it's slowly taking over your ship over the course of days," Kim added, connecting components with practiced ease, "we'll actually be observing millions of attack patterns in minutes." The Vraxian officers exchanged uncertain glances. What the humans proposed was unprecedented, almost heretical to their security doctrines. Technician Han wheeled over a cart loaded with monitoring equipment. The beauty is, once we understand how it thinks, we can build a counter-virus that thinks one step ahead. So began implementing the plan, his screens showing the creation of a perfect digital replica of the Vraxian ship's systems. The virus detected the new pathways and immediately began infiltrating them, thinking it had found a secondary target. "It's working," he breathed, watching data streams flow between the real systems and the decoy. The virus is spending most of its processing power on the fake systems. Within the first hour, they had more information about the virus than the Vraxian engineers had gathered in days of analysis. "Look at this pattern," So pointed to a recurring sequence in the virus code. "It's trying to access your quantum communication array." Captain Valketh leaned closer. "Our most secure system." "Not anymore," Kim said, her hybrid diagnostic tool beeping rapidly. "This virus has administrative access codes for at least a dozen different ship classes." Programmer So's eyes widened as he traced the data. "This isn't just sabotage. Someone's been collecting access codes from ships across the galaxy." The implications were staggering. If someone had master codes for multiple species vessels, they could potentially control or destroy entire fleets. Chief Engineer Lee coordinated the next phase. "All right, people. We know what it does. We know how it thinks. Now let's build something that outsmarts it." The next few hours became a symphony of organized chaos. Humans crawled through access panels, modified quantum processors with improvised tools, and ran simulations at speeds that made the Vraxian computers overheat. Engineer O created a counter-virus that she called the Hunter. Unlike traditional antivirus programs that simply deleted threats, the Hunter was designed to learn and evolve just like its target. "We're not just fighting fire with fire," she explained to the fascinated aliens. "We're creating a smarter fire." Programmer So implemented the counter-virus with surgical precision. Instead of announcing its presence, the Hunter quietly infected the original virus, becoming part of it. "The virus thinks the Hunter is just another one of its own subroutines," he explained, watching the code merge seamlessly. "But actually, it's rewriting the virus from the inside." Subcommander Hextar watched in amazement as the sabotage virus began changing. Its aggressive expansion slowed, then stopped. Then it began to retreat. "Impossible," breathed Navigation Officer Velka. "The virus is healing the damage it caused." Kim nodded, grinning widely. The Hunter convinced it that fixing the ship was its original purpose. "The virus is now working to strengthen your systems instead of destroying them." Within 6 hours, not only was the virus completely removed, but the ship's systems were actually more secure than before. The Hunter had evolved into a permanent Guardian program capable of detecting and neutralizing future attacks. "Your security network is now practically impenetrable," So announced, leaning back in his chair. "Any similar attack will trigger the Hunter, which will immediately adapt and counter." Captain Valketh stared at the displays showing her ship's systems running smoother than they had in years. The humans had accomplished in hours what her best engineers couldn't achieve in months. Word of their success traveled through quantum communications networks faster than light itself. Within hours, messages were pouring in from across the galaxy. Other species wanted to know how a primitive human crew had solved a problem that had stumped the greatest minds in known space. Chief Engineer Lee dusted off her hands and smiled. Just another day at Echo 4, but everyone knew this was far from ordinary. The humans hadn't just fixed a problem, they had revolutionized cybersecurity for the entire galaxy. The arrival alarm echoed through Station Echo 4 as another massive ship emerged from hyperspace. Captain Thulvan's cerulean flagship approached slowly, its blue-tinted hull shimmering like liquid metal in the starlight. Unlike the battle damage on the previous Vraxian vessel, this ship looked perfect from the outside. "Station Controller." Park rubbed his tired eyes as he responded to the incoming transmission. "Echo 4 here. Status of your emergency?" "Routine maintenance check," came the reply in the melodic tones typical of cerulean speech. But Park could hear something else in the captain's voice. Desperation. Chief Engineer Lee joined him at the communication station. By now she could read between the lines when alien captains claimed they needed routine work. "Berth assignment in 15 minutes, Captain Thulven," she transmitted. Then, switching off the radio, she turned to Park. "Third routine maintenance. Call this week. Word spreading faster than we thought." Within the hour, Thulven's ship had docked and the truth came out. Engineer Kim crawled through the cerulean vessel's pristine corridors, her scanner registering power fluctuations that made no sense. "This is fascinating," she called out to her team. "The ship's fusion reactors are running perfectly, but the power output keeps dropping by exactly 23.7% every 37 minutes. Technician Han traced power lines with his hands. "It's like the energy is disappearing into thin air." Captain Thulven watched nervously as the humans worked. "Our best. Engineers spent 6 months trying to solve this. The Galactic engineers pronounced it impossible to diagnose." Engineer O smiled, connecting a device that looked like a mix of cerulean technology and human creativity. "That's because they were looking for a logical fault. Sometimes the problem isn't logical." She discovered that the ship's bio-neural networks had developed something resembling personality disorders. The organic components were essentially arguing with the mechanical ones, causing periodic disagreements that manifested as power losses. "Your ship needs therapy, not repairs," O explained to the bewildered Ceruleans. While they worked on solving the neurotic fusion system, another vessel approached Echo 4. Admiral Kexrath's command ship was even more impressive than the previous arrivals, a sleek Aquarian vessel that moved through space like a giant manta ray. Maintenance Chief Sun looked up from his workstation as the ship's specifications appeared on his screen. "Navigation problems," he read aloud, "claims their ship randomly changes course mid-jump." Technician Yoon nodded grimly. "The Galactic engineers said it was impossible, called it a quantum anomaly beyond current understanding." Sun rolled up his sleeves. At barely 25, he was the youngest department head on the station, but his innovative approaches had already earned him respect from both humans and aliens. Within hours, Sun's team discovered the issue. The Aquarians had upgraded their ship with technology from 5 different species, but hadn't accounted for how the systems would interact. The navigation computer was essentially trying to plot courses using 7 different geometric models simultaneously. "It's like asking for directions in 7 languages at once," Sun explained to Admiral Kexrath. "Your computer is getting confused and picking random routes." The solution involved creating a translation protocol that Sun described as teaching your ship's systems to speak the same dialect of mathematics. Meanwhile, Station Controller Park stood on the observation deck, watching the queue of ships stretching into space. Vessels from a dozen different species waited for repairs that only Echo 4 seemed capable of providing. "We're going to need more repair bays," he muttered, calculating the resources required. Engineer Min joined him, wiping machine oil from his hands. "Bay 12 is working on a crystalline ship whose entire hull started resonating in hyperspace. Apparently their builders didn't account for certain frequencies, causing the whole structure to sing." "Singing ships," Park shook his head. "What's next?" The answer came in the form of a hegemony transmission from halfway across the galaxy. In the towering spires of the hegemony homeworld, Councillor Vexmorth reviewed reports with growing concern. "These humans," he said to his aide, his voice tight with controlled anger, "threaten the established order." He gestured at holographics, displays showing repair station statistics. 17 major technical problems solved in the past month, problems that our best minds declared unsolvable. The aide, a younger hegemony official, shifted nervously. "Perhaps we could learn from their methods." Vexmorth's eyes flashed dangerously. "If primitive species can solve problems we cannot, what does that say about our supremacy, about our right to lead the galaxy?" Back at Echo 4, Chief Engineer Lee gathered her teams for a celebration. They had just completed their most ambitious project yet, a universal diagnostic system that could interface with any known technology. 3 weeks, she announced to the assembled crowd of humans and aliens. That's all it took to create something the galaxy's greatest minds said was impossible, programmer. So stepped forward, holding up a device no bigger than a tablet. This little guy can diagnose problems in Vraxian quantum systems, cerulean bioneural networks, Aquarian probability drives, and about 40 other technological standards. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Present were engineers from 7 different species who had contributed insights to the project. "We're not smarter than them individually," Lee explained, gesturing to their alien colleagues, "but we see connections they don't. We adapt." She pointed to Engineer Kim, who was installing the diagnostic system in a triangular ship, whose crew communicated entirely through color patterns. Kim figured out that their ship's problems were actually color-related. The control systems were literally giving mixed signals. Technician Cho laughed. "And remember the gaseous ship last week? Their entire propulsion system was basically a stomachache." The success stories piled up. A ship where the artificial intelligence had fallen in love with its own databases, a vessel whose weapon systems were playing pranks on the crew, a transport ship whose cargo bay kept rearranging its own contents like it was playing Tetris. Each problem seemed impossible, Lee concluded, until we stopped thinking like engineers and started thinking like humans. Captain Valketh, who had remained at the station to observe, stepped forward. "You have given us more than repairs," she said. "You have given us a new way of seeing problems." But their success was attracting attention beyond grateful customers. As repair requests poured in from across the galaxy, so did more sinister interest. Technician Han monitored the communications array. "Chief, we're getting some weird signals. Looks like someone's trying to hack our diagnostic systems." Lee frowned. "Probably corporate espionage. Everyone wants to know how we do what we do." Little did they know that the attempts weren't from competitors, but from the Hegemony Council itself, desperately trying to understand how primitive humans had made their advanced civilization look obsolete. Station Controller Park looked at the growing queue of ships and the increasingly sophisticated repair requests. "I think we're going to need more than extra repair bays soon." Chief Engineer Lee nodded, watching her team solve impossible problems with impossible solutions. "We're going to need to teach the whole galaxy how to think differently." The attack came at midnight, station time. Engineer Kim was reviewing diagnostic reports when every screen went dark simultaneously. Emergency lighting flickered on as the main reactor's signature vanished from all sensors. "This isn't a malfunction," she breathed, grabbing her emergency toolkit. Alarms screamed through Echo 4's corridors as power systems failed in cascade. The artificial gravity fluctuated, causing tools and people to float momentarily before slamming back down. Station Controller Park sprinted to the emergency broadcast station, his hands steady despite the chaos. "All ships, evacuate immediately. Repeat, all vessels initiate emergency departure procedures." Through the station speakers, panicked voices responded in dozens of languages. Ships began powering up their engines, preparing to abandon the station to its fate. But Chief Engineer Lee had other plans. She burst through the doors of Engineering Bay Alpha, where humans and aliens were working together to restore backup power. "Attention, everyone! We're not running away. We're going to turn this station into something the galaxy's never seen." The mixed crew stared at her as if she'd lost her mind. Power conduits sparked around them. The station groaned under the stress of failing systems, and yet she was talking about innovation. Captain Valketh, who had been assisting with repairs, stepped forward. "Chief Lee, the sabotage has crippled your main reactor. Without primary power—" "We don't need the main reactor," Lee interrupted. "We have 17 ships docked here, each with its own power source. Kim, how fast can you create a distributed power network?" Engineer Kim's eyes lit up with understanding. "If I can reverse the docking clamp's magnetic couplers and use the fuel transfer lines as power conduits." Her fingers flew across a portable control unit. "Give me 10 minutes. Technician Han was already moving. "I'll get the Vraxian ship's quantum batteries. They can handle the load spikes when we link systems." Su Commander Hextar, the Vraxian Su technical officer, hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Accessing our emergency reserves now." The next few minutes became a symphony of organized chaos. Humans, Vraxians, Ceruleans, and Aquarians worked together, crawling through maintenance tunnels and rewiring systems with desperate speed. Mechanic discovered that the sabotage was more sophisticated than initially thought. That they didn't just attack the reactor, she called out. They're trying to hack our entire network. Programmer, already connected to 3 different computer systems simultaneously, highlighted the threat. Multiple intrusion attempts on all. Docked vessels. Someone's trying to turn the ships against each other. In that moment, inspiration struck. Instead of fighting the hack, he decided to use it. I'm uploading our adaptive virus protocol from last week, So announced. But this time it's not just defensive, it's going to eat their attack code and use it to create a shield around the entire station. As he typed, the station's repair nanobots received new programming. These microscopic machines, normally used for hull repairs and maintenance, began swarming through the station's structure. They linked together, creating a web of sensors and defensive mechanisms. Technician Yoon and Mechanic Cho worked with teams from multiple species to convert industrial equipment into improvised weapons. A cargo crane became a mass driver. Welding torches were reconfigured as precision plasma cannons. Even the garbage recycling system was repurposed into a debris launcher. Contact on sensors, reported a Cerulean navigator. 3 ships approaching fast, no identification codes. The saboteurs had expected to find a crippled station and helpless victims. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. As the attack ships fired their weapons, the station's nanobots reacted instantly. They formed shield configurations that absorbed and redirected energy blasts. The distributed power network meant that even if one section failed, power simply rerouted through any of the docked ships. Impossible, one saboteur transmitted as, his weapons failed to penetrate the adaptive shields. Programmer, So smiled grimly. Now for the fun part. He released the modified attack code back at the saboteur's ships. But this code didn't just defend, it learned and evolved. Within minutes, it had infected all 3 attacking vessels. What's happening? The lead saboteur panicked as his ship's systems began broadcasting his identity and affiliation to the entire galaxy. You're being exposed, Captain Valketh transmitted coldly. Your ships are now beacons, broadcasting your crimes to every vessel and station within 50 light years. The saboteurs tried to flee, but their own ships had turned against them. The adaptive code forced their vessels to maintain position while transmitting detailed logs of their activities, their hegemony connection, and their plans to destroy the station. As dawn broke over Echo 4, the crisis had passed. But more importantly, something new had been born. Captain Valketh stood before the assembled crews in the main hangar bay. Representatives from a dozen species watched as she spoke. Today we have seen something unprecedented, she announced. Humans do not merely repair our ships, they improve them. They don't just maintain our technology, they transform it. She gestured to the evidence around them. The station now hummed with power from 17 different sources. Its hull gleamed with protective nanobots that had permanently integrated into the structure. The docked ships were now part of a greater whole, their systems networked in ways no one had imagined possible. More importantly, Valketh continued, they do not preserve the old ways of thinking. They create new ones. Within days, messages poured in from across the galaxy. The footage of Echo 4's transformation and successful defense spread like wildfire. Government representatives, corporate executives, and military leaders all wanted to understand how a small repair station had revolutionized defensive technology in a single night. 3 months later, the Galactic Congress convened for a historic vote. By unanimous decision, they officially recognized the Terran Repair Consortium as an essential galactic service. Repair stations began appearing throughout civilized space, each staffed by mixed teams of humans and aliens. But these weren't just repair facilities anymore. They were innovation centers, problem-solving hubs, and technological laboratories. Chief Engineer Lee, now promoted to Director of Galactic Maintenance Operations, gave the keynote address at the new training facility on Luna. We learned something during that attack, she told the mixed species audience. We learned that the best solutions don't come from the most advanced technology or the smartest individuals. They come from combining different ways of thinking. She pointed to a demonstration area where humans worked alongside Vraxian engineers to solve a puzzle from hegemony space, a puzzle that had stumped their greatest minds for decades. Humans see patterns others miss because we're not limited by conventional thinking. We adapt because we have to. We innovate because it's our nature. Engineer Kim, now Director of Innovative Solutions, stood on the observation deck of a new class of repair station. This one was built from the ground, up as a hybrid, part human intuition, part alien precision. She watched a young team of humans, Vraxians and Ceruleans working together on something that shouldn't exist, a faster-than-light communication system built entirely from salvaged parts. The device they were creating would revolutionize galactic communications, and they were building it from components that other species had thrown away. "Welcome to the future," Kim whispered, watching sparks fly as different technologies merged into something greater than the sum of their parts. Across the galaxy, former enemies now worked together, learning that sometimes the most primitive approach was actually the most advanced. The universe had discovered that the best way forward wasn't always the most sophisticated path. Sometimes it was simply the willingness to try something different. The age of human-alien cooperation had begun, built on a foundation of shared curiosity, combined ingenuity, and the revolutionary idea that broken things were just opportunities for improvement. And in repair stations throughout known space, that philosophy continued to create miracles every day. The end.